Hey there, I want to take some time to share with you how I think you should source your online arbitrage leads. Now, many of you probably get online arbitrage leads either from a team that you create, or maybe you find your own leads, or maybe you have a leads list like I offer. Whatever the method, there's a lot of things that you really need to think about when you're getting these lists together before you start buying these particular leads. So let's jump in and see what I'm talking about. Okay, so you probably have created some sort of spreadsheet, or maybe you get a spreadsheet from an OA list provider with all your leads on it. And no matter what exactly you get from your provider, what you create, it's all going to have certain groups of information on it. So I'm going to show you one like I provide for my clients. And if yours is a little different, that's okay. You should be able to follow along. So here we see that we have a list of leads. We have 3 leads here. And we have some columns with some information: profit, ROI, margin, store name, so on. And whatever sourcing you do, you're going to have some variation of this information. You may have more of it, you may have less of it. It just depends. But in any case, you're going to have something here that is going to allow you to sort of go down the list and check off leads and see if they work for you or not. So let's jump into a couple of these. Let's jump into this first one, which is the Sierra lead. So I'm going to open up both tabs. I usually like to kind of get a feel for the lead a little bit. This is going to be a pullover hoodie. We can see up here 2X. It's going to cost us around $40 at Sierra, and this Amazon price is around $70. So let's look at the Amazon or the Sierra lead. So right now we see that this particular item is sold out. It was at $39.99. And again, these leads are a few months old, so it's pretty common they're going to be sold out. These are leads that I created for my list, so obviously I'm not going to put leads that are out very new. But if this was available in $39.99, how would we break it down? Well, let's jump over to the Amazon page. Now, this doesn't look like a normal Amazon product page because we have AZ Insight up here running. And if you like AZ Insight or you want to find out more about it, there's a link down below. I think it's a great on-screen calculator. It has tremendous customization you can do. But for now, we're just going to use it to analyze this lead. And you can see over here, there's a lot of information we have. We have a BSR of 130. We have a clothing and shoes and jewelry category. We have that we can sell this item. We are eligible to list it, and it's not a dangerous good. And then right here, we have a calculator. We have an estimated monthly sales of 83. And we know that the price of this was $39.99. So I'm going to type that in here. And when I do that, you're going to see that these numbers are going to change. You're going to see that there's a profit of $9.99 on this with a 25% ROI and a margin of 15%. Now, depending what your goals are, that may or may not fit them. For our particular leads that we push out, we like an ROI of 30% and a profit of at least $6. So it meets the profit, but not the ROI. But if you got this lead on a list and it came to you, you still might buy it. If you thought it was a good deal, you'd probably look at some other factors. We can see down here in the 30, 90, and 180-day averages that it's selling about 83 leads 83 units every 30 days. This is an estimate. It's not 100%, so take this with a grain of salt, but it's probably close. There's lots of other info down here that you can copy and so on. We want to make sure it's the same item, of course. This looks to be the same item. This is very white here and in this particular picture, but you can see here, this one's probably white as well. It's just got the photography was not quite as good as the Sierra website photography. It's been available for over a year. It's always nice to see if a lead's been available for a while. That means there's probably not any issues with IP. And by the way, this does check IP and so on right here. There's no claims in the AZ Insight database for this particular brand, which is Sitka gear. There's other information down here about dimensions and product weight and package quantity. You always want to make sure that the number of units is correct. And it looks like in this case it is. And then we see some ratings here and so on. And then we see all the various variations. And the various variations are basically colors and sizes for a clothing item. But we've got the white waterfowl, which is the right one. And we've got a 2X. You can see a lot of the other ones are out of stock. Currently unavailable. No one's selling it. There are some XXLs available right now. This person has a stock of 1. And these other sellers, if we click on the stock checker, we'll be able to see what their inventory is as well. It's always useful, I think, if if something's only selling 30 or 40 units a month and there's 1,000 units of inventory, it may be tough for you to sell that in any reasonable time frame. And we can see here there's only 6-7 units available, which is pretty low. The one other thing I would check too is the variations tab. And I look for a few different things in the variations tab. One, I look for an average price for all of the units across this parent ASIN. And so far, this is looking pretty good. $76.65 is the average price. We only need $67.38 to make $10 on it. But remember, our ROI was a little bit lower than we wanted. So it looks like maybe we could even price it a little bit higher in some cases, maybe not. If I click on this, it's going to pop out a bigger screen. And we're going to go ahead, I'm going to turn off the out of stocks and the suppressed. And we're going to look at, and you can customize all these columns, by the way, whatever you want them to be. We can see here the XX large and the white waterfowl. It does have 4 ratings right here. Now that's important because that means potentially at least 4 sales, 4 people bought this and rated it. Yes, sometimes people can rate things they didn't buy, but it shows there's probably some sell-through of this particular variation. It's not as good as, say, the extra large and the black elevated color because that's had 18 ratings. And so I always like to look at the ratings and reviews. And actually, this one is the reviews. I'm sorry, it's not ratings. The ratings is over here. But there have been reviews of it, so those were on sales. That's even better than a rating. And so there has been some stock sell-through. And again, the price is decently high. So if this item were still available, I might buy it. And the question becomes, how many do we buy? Well, let me go back to the calculator. We're going to go back down here and we're going to look at Keepa, which is also on the page. And you can see here, it looks like the price is held pretty steady around 70 with a recent drop down to, what is it, 67.98. There's only been 4 sellers on it. Anytime that let me turn these off. Anytime that you see drops in the seller total, that usually means a sale happened. Someone sold out. You can see back here, there was some drops, drop. And that's over a year, obviously. But in any case, it looks like, this item might be decent for to buy. And in terms of how many to buy, that's a great question. I don't, even though I see that this was 83 and that's a decent amount of sell through, this is an item that is variation based. And certain variations are going to sell better than others. So I'm always leery of those. I tend to go on the low side on those. So if Sierra was in stock, you see here Sierra has a $89 free shipping offer. I would have probably bought enough to get the free shipping just because I hate paying shipping. So maybe 3 maximum. But I would have to be okay with dropping the price even lower if need be to get rid of it. And the calculator also shows you there's a break-even price here of $55. So you could drop the price significantly, almost 20%, and still get your money back from it if you could sell it. So I think, this would be a 2 to 3 units at max in this particular case. If it was a better sell-through and it wasn't so variation dependent, I might buy 4 or 5. Typically in OA, you want to go wide, not deep. So that does it for this one. So let's jump down to the next one. Okay, so the second lead is actually totally sold out. So let's skip that one and we'll try to see if this one is still in stock or not. And this particular one is a Fiesta 9 5/8 inch oval plate platter in cobalt. And it's selling for $15.99 on the Fiesta Factory Direct website, which, by the way, I love it. I love when you get a website that's straight from the brand. Then you're going to get an authentic item and you're probably going to have a great receipt or invoice should Amazon have an issue with it. So we see that there's a lot of different colors here, but right now we already have the cobalt blue selected and it is $15.99. And there's an offer here too. It says buy 5 of the same item, get the 6 free. So you could get a little bit of discount, but $15.99 for cobalt. And then of course we have our quantity here. And of course we would want to check our cashback options up here too. I don't know if there's any cashback. I have an app up here, a Chrome extension called Cashback Holic that's pretty good about finding, it kind of compiles them all together. It doesn't look like maybe there's any cashback on this site, which that happens. So $15.99, and we see here that if we put our total in the calculator here, then we would make $903 and a 56% margin with or 56% ROI with a 24% margin. We can sell it There's no hazmat or anything like that. It is selling approximately 35 units per month. And I like to look at the price history too. Now this is on a $37.11 buy box price, which there is a buy box. That's another good thing to look for when you're sourcing. If there's no buy box, it might be a little tougher to get sales with it. We see the buy box was 38, 36, 36.92. So, 37.11 is probably reasonable. We see that the sales per month over 30 days was 35, over 90 days 164, and then 318. So it looks to be selling. It's been available for 4,310 days. So this has been available for over 10 years, which again, probably a pretty good thing. And it is the 9 5/8 inch oval platter cobalt. Now, I always look for, especially items like this, you absolutely want to make sure that the quantity is correct. So I will look in the title. I will look in the photos. There's only a photo of one. And there's a package quantity of one here, which is good. I will also look right here to see if there's any other numbers in here. Sometimes whoever made the listing slides numbers in here. And sometimes I will go down here and read the ratings and read the reviews and see if anybody complained and said, oh, I only got one, and it said I was supposed to get 6. But this one looks legit. Now, one thing that worries me is I see the price for cobalt is kind of high compared to these other prices. So let's look at our variations tab again. And again, we're basing this on a $37.11 buy box, which seems to be supported. But I noticed that the average price right now is $23.34. That is quite a bit lower than $37.11. That does concern me a little bit. It doesn't mean I won't necessarily buy it. It just means I need to really dig a little deeper. Let's see, cobalt is right here, and we see there are reviews and ratings, so that's a good sign. That means that people have been buying it. Again, I don't like that this price is so much higher. Now, sometimes the most desirable variation, people will pay up for it. That does happen. So this is not always a deal breaker. But I'm also going to look down here and see if Keepa can give me any info. In the last 3 months, it was up here around 40. These were buy boxes or FBA prices. There's your buy box price, the purple line. It did drop down to in around $34. But even $34 would still, we can put 34 here to see what that looks like. We still would make $639 on it a unit, which is pretty good. This seems to be a decent item, and there are, multiple sellers on it over the last 3 months. Over the last year, it was down here lower around 30, and then a bunch of pop-ups as different people are getting the buy box, but there's been a lot more activity around this item. There has been an increase in the number of offers in the past, few months, which sometimes pushes down price, and it did a little bit right here. We can see that the price line sort of did this, and the offer or the buy box offer prices, but this is probably worth a risk. I mean, it's selling a reasonable amount. It's selling 35 a month. I would probably look at what are my shipping options here. If I can get, maybe I buy 5 and get the 6th one free. So that makes 1/16 the cost. So it drops, I don't know if my math is right, but it drops the cost a bit. Things to consider. And let's think about this too. This is a non-seasonal type item. It's going to be always a market for this. You would have to sell this at $26.48 to break even, which is a pretty good drop from that. So you've got some cushion there if a whole bunch of people jumped on this. So I think this is a pretty good lead. So I would probably be a buyer of this one at $15.99. All right, so that concludes this particular episode of Source With Me. I know we only had a couple items to look through, but hopefully you can use some of the strategies and tactics we talked about here in your sourcing. Remember, when you get an OA lead, it's a lead. It's not a guarantee. It's not a for sure you're going to buy this item. You still need to go through and do your due diligence. You need to go through and run the numbers, make sure it makes sense with your given parameters, make sure there's no mistakes in it. People make mistakes. And also remember that things are constantly changing on Amazon. The platform is changing. The market is changing. The number of sellers is varying, sometimes wildly, depending on the item, the seasonality, and the price, and so on. So that's all to say that a lead is just a lead. It's not anything that you can necessarily say tomorrow will be good or next week. It may not be. It may only be good for right now, and it may not even be that good. You always need to go in and, as I said, do your due diligence. But I would love to hear your comments about this particular sourcing method. This is kind of what I do when I'm buying. It's also kind of the process I look through when my VAs are sourcing leads for our list. I look through and kind of do the same process. I try to look at it through the eyes of a seller. And as always, leave a comment, like the video, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you soon.